One of the great stories about Canada has been that since Confederation, through the Depression, through both World Wars, that the percentage of people in Canada who owned a home always increased. So each generation had a better shot at owning a home than the parents or grandparents. That helped to build our middle class, made us a strong, stable country. It's a great hallmark of Canada. Until now, in the last 3 years, the rate of homeownership is actually slipping. And what's particularly surprising about this is we've had a sustained period of low mortgage rates. The economy has done much better than average. But despite all that, the percentage of homeowners is going down, largely in the backs of millennials and new Canadians.
Tim Hudak is a guy with a lot on the go. He was elected as an MPP at 27. He served in 3 successive cabinets. He's the former leader of the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario. And after more than 21 years in politics, he's now the CEO of the Ontario Real Estate Association. We talked about home ownership, the media, Stats Canada, video games, and more. This is my conversation with Tim Hudak. So Tim Hudak, thanks very much for making the time to chat today.
Warren Weeks, good to see you. Thanks for coming to the Ontario Real Estate Association HQ. What do you think?
You guys have a very beautiful room here. People can't see it, but it looks like one of those like high-tech media rooms that people do those crazy interviews in, and screens and fake backdrops.
Kind of half my day crazy interviews, including this one. If you want to rent it out sometime, if the acoustics work for you.
Do you guys really do that?
Yeah.
Really?
We will.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely. We just opened up this past year because one of the things we try to do here at the Real Estate Association is better communicate with our members,
right?
Two-way communication and the public. And I need all the help I can do to look pretty on video.
Right.
We rent it out too.
So you guys had your conference a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure exactly when it was, but I saw there's a lot of build up to it online. One of the things, I think it was your public affairs conference. Is that what it was?
ORPC 18.
Yeah.
Ontario Realtor Party Conference. Yeah, it's basically our public affairs conference. The Ontario Realtor Party is basically the realtors who want to get involved and help improve their community, get involved in politics, talk to elected officials, run themselves. We call it the Realtor Party because whether you're liberal, conservative, New Democrat, or Green, we'll support anybody who likes our cause around home ownership and supporting the good work realtors do. So that was our conference.
So the list of speakers was pretty bananas, I have to say. Like, and you kind of released them one at a time. You had the Premier was there, Stephen Harper was there. How did you wrangle all these
Look
folks?
At you watching us, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Did you guess them? We did the little
I didn't guess.
shadows.
I didn't guess.
Okay.
And I was surprised, actually. It's like just the stature was pretty huge.
So I had given direction to our team here to run the best public affairs conference in Ontario.
Yeah.
I wanted to do that not only because we like showing off, I guess, but more importantly, one of the biggest issues, Warren, in particularly the Greater Toronto Hamilton area is home ownership.
Right.
And for the first time in our history of our province, the rates of home ownership are actually slipping.
Right.
We want to turn that around. So we went all out. Prime Minister Harper was one of our guest speakers. For the first time in the history of our organization, the Premier of the province of Ontario, at this time Doug Ford, was there. Andrew Horwath, the leader of the NDP, the leader of Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition,
right.
The Green Party leader Mike Schneider, and the Liberal leader John Fraser. So we had all four big wigs out. And my other favorite, didn't get as much play, but big in the audience.
Yeah.
Ambassador David McNaughton. He's a Canadian ambassador to the U.S. I think been a key player in the, what do they call it now? The USMCA.
Oh, right, the new deal.
Yeah.
Is he the guy from
President
Strategy
Trump.
Corp?
You got it. Right. Yeah. He had a really successful career in politics, in the financial sector, and now helps run one of the largest public affairs companies in Canada. And then Prime Minister Trudeau appointed him as our ambassador, and really the right guy at the right time.
That's Leslie Noble's shop?
You got it, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. One of the things I noticed when I saw some of the videos online is the video work. You had these like moving cameras, and so I know a lot of people are into video these days. But the quality of the video seemed really cool. Like, did you guys like outsource that, or whose idea was?
I don't know. I'm the CEO. I kind of give the marching orders, and I show up and read my speech. Isn't that what the job definition is? We did. We have a lot of internal talent as well, but we do contract out for that type of work.
But that was your call. You wanted to make sure that everything was captured properly, I guess.
We had, as you described it, I think in the technical term, bananas. list of speakers.
That is technical,
it was really good. We also had a media panel of some, probably the keenest eyes on Queen's Park. Robert Benzie from the Toronto Star, Marika Walsh from iPolitics, and Alan Carter from Focus Ontario Global News. We also had a number of MPPs speak, including the class of 18, so the new crop of MPPs.
Right.
Anyway, it was a stacked program, and we wanted to make sure that the production value was up to it for the importance of the issue, for almost 500 realtors and others that were there in the audience, and for the quality of folks on the stage.
The energy level looked really good, too.
It was great.
Yeah.
Look, 21 years in politics myself. I've been here at the Real Estate Association. Thank you for recognizing my anniversary last week.
Happy
2
anniversary.
years, thank you, as of December 1. And we wanted to make sure that we elevated our game. It was always a successful conference, but considering the importance of the issues we deal with, the quality of speakers that we attracted, we wanted to have the best public affairs conference. And having been in this business now for, public life for 24 years or so, I tell you, Warren, it was the best one I've been to. I've been to political conferences. I've been to association conferences.
Right.
I met you at a CASC conference.
That's right.
This was the best. It was good.
Excellent. So you've obviously been huge on social media, one of the earliest adopters, certainly in the political realm, but just sort of in general. What was it? Was it something about your childhood, or what made you kind of leap into that? Because there are a lot of people still in 2018, almost 2019, not doing it to the level that you are. You basically have the parallel life that you live online, which is how I'm able to keep track of what's happening with you. But what was it about you that made you jump into social the way you did?
Yeah, look, I had an Atari 2600. My buddy had a television, and I was jealous, and I wanted to.
That's where it started?
That's where it all started. I actually, in my basement, this was a great gift from my wife, Deb. I have a 1979 original console Space Invaders in my repertoire.
Like one of the actual, the cabinet thing?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure the computer chip is probably the size of a Band-Aid, right?
Yeah.
But it's this monster that falls on you, you're dead.
Pardon me? Do you play it?
Yeah, it's hard. I think I'm decent at it. I'm better than I used to be when I was a preteen.
Yeah.
I used to line up at the County Fair Mall, sort of, watching over the shoulder of those mysterious teenagers that smelled of cigarette smoke and swore a lot.
And what
never
town
really
was
got
this?
to play.
Was this
Fort Erie, the border town of Fort Erie, right across from Buffalo.
What was your favorite arcade game when you were a kid?
Galaxians.
Really?
Yeah. I liked those little shooter games, the space games, Space Invaders. Now I do have that one, but I liked it. When they sort of swoop down and you try to zap before they get there. Centipede was another favorite of mine.
Yeah.
In that era. Yeah.
Galaga was that?
Exactly. Yeah. Galaga, Galaxians, Centipede.
I think we had a similar youths, misspent youth.
Hubert
in the local arcade. Yeah.
Who made a guest appearance in Wreck-It Ralph that I now have taken my daughter to see. Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So to answer your question a bit more seriously, we, when I started in politics in 1995, you were considered on the cutting edge if you had a website. I was part of that era where we saw the shift from, I used to get this something, Warren, called an envelope, and inside would be a piece of paper, usually typed or handwritten, and something in the corner called a stamp.
Yeah.
So that was a dominant form when I first got into politics, and now it's totally transformed into email, text, and social media. So I don't know if I was on the cutting edge, but I was an early adopter of the concept of the website for an MPP as a rookie in 1995 when I was 27. When I became PC leader in Ontario, I was the first, I think, to have my own app, the Tim Hudak app.
That's right.
I'm not sure how many downloads there have been most recently, but it was fun at the time. I'm just somebody who believes, here's the bottom line, somebody who believes in communicating as often, as clearly, and as, I guess, with a great, as memorable as possible. So we use all channels here to read. I do it all right as an individual as well. There's that old adage that if a tree falls in the forest, right, nobody heard it. If you don't see it on social media or some other venue, it didn't happen.
But, here we are again, it's almost 2019. And I would say that a lot of folks who are in the political realm, certainly, but even in the association world, CEOs or executive directors of associations are not doing it even to anywhere nearly how you are. So is that where does that fit in? Because it takes a lot of time, and like it's work to actually do this. People, if anyone who has a 13 or 14-year-old daughter like I do, think that just comes naturally. But when you're as busy as you are, it takes a lot of work. So you must realize the value of that investment in sort of making those connections and that sort of awareness funnel.
You hear it from people, right? I mean, we could post it on the website, or we could do a broadcast, I guess, to all of the media if we're making some big announcement or have a new study like we did with Ryerson University to point out the number of millennials who are about to leave mom and dad's basement in the housing market. But nobody would have heard about it. Would have sat on our shelf from some library somewhere gathering dust. So if we use social media channels, then that often will trigger broader interest. Then in turn, that tends to trigger media coverage, whether it be radio or print or television. So I just believe in using those channels to capture attention. Is that rare for an association? Probably it's increasing. It should go a lot faster.
Right.
It was just a trick of the trade I took from the old job in politics and injected it here at OREA.
Right. Now, you do a radio show as well. How long has that been going on? How long have you been doing that?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So I'm the host of the Tim Hudak Show on the Bell Talk Radio Network. So it's pretty cool. It's News Talk 1010 in Toronto is where I do the show out of. It's also simulcast in the Hamilton, Niagara, London, Windsor, and Ottawa markets, and then streamed.
Right.
So it's a lot of fun. Now, they put me, Warren, on Sunday afternoons because nobody listens to talk radio on Sunday afternoons. So it was a safe experiment.
Like the Siberia of radio.
Totally. Okay. Do you listen to talk radio on Sunday afternoons?
I listen. Usually, if I find something, I'll stream it. I'll just download it and stream it.
And you can.
Yeah.
Just Google the Tim Hudak Show.
Mac and cheese the other day was the big issue of the day.
Because I think Katie has slipped.
Yeah.
I could go on and on about that. I lived on craft dinner, late teens, university, school, before I got married, and it's slipping. It is slipping badly, and I was outraged.
They got complacent.
That. I think they did. They changed the formula. That's my conspiracy.
Really?
It's the undiscovered new Coke.
To be less toxic, or
yeah, they took out the dig low color and the dyes 5 and 6 or whatever. And
so what's the other one?
Ingredients?
The other one that you were talking about. What brand is it? Not
President's Choice White Cheddar.
Is it good?
Yeah, it is.
Do you recommend it?
Yeah, I do. I mean, we all have to have macaroni and cheese in a box, right? We all have to have that
it's a staple.
Our cupboard. It is. I have 2 daughters, Miller, 11, Maitland, as she reminds me, 4.5.
Yeah.
And they call it craft dinner, but then we take out of the cupboard, President's Choice, White Cheddar, mac and cheese. There's one from the States, too. I was talking about that. Is it Diane's? What's that? I don't think that's as good. I think it's overhyped.
Nice. I'm going to have to check it out.
But to your point, so the talk radio, how'd that come about? I retired from politics in 2016, but before I walked out the door, I was doing a number of interviews on the sharing economy. I'd taken an interest in that. And they said, you know what, you did a good job. Maybe if you relax a little bit from your leader mode. So they put me on some pundit panel. So I was one of the pundits. And then the station manager, Mike Van Dixon, said, you know what, you want to do your own show? I said, all right, what the hell?
You're not busy. What the hell?
Yeah. So just over 2 years now on the Bell Radio Network through News Talk 1010, I've been doing my own show, which is a blast because as long as I guess you're interested and entertaining, they keep letting me do it. And I can do any topic from craft dinner to real estate to the death of the latest pro wrestler and why anybody cares.
That's right. Well, one of the people you interviewed recently was Jean Chrétien.
So I've been lucky to have, political figures on as well, because I've got that interest, right? You've got to be convincing on the talk radio that you care about the topics. You're not just reading some newspaper headline. So I guess it reflects my tastes.
Yeah.
But it's been a blast. I try to get the audience engaged. And, Premier Harris has been on my show. Andrew Horvath has been on my show. I should try to pitch to Doug Ford. It'd be great to have him on my show.
Sure.
And most recently,
I think he's got his own show. He's got his own station.
I'm actually in that slot.
Yeah, really?
I am, yeah. It's pretty cool because I had the finance minister, Vic Fedeli, on a couple weeks ago, just after he had done his economic update.
Oh, the 5 things that were missing out of the update.
Look at you with the research. Homework,
eh? Yeah.
This whole entourage behind you, they're the ones that do all the work for you? Or?
There's nobody here, by the way.
Yeah, so I'm flattered that you listened in or looked into it. But yeah, it was a chance to say, okay, what are the main things that the media missed about your economic update? What's it mean to average folks? And it was a good show.
Right. So the real estate market, obviously we're in the offices of the Ontario Real Estate Association, and you alluded earlier to home ownership, that the levels are slipping. The market is obviously a lot different than it was when we were growing up, which sounds like, those typical sort of older folks. But it's when you look at some of the prices and especially hearing about millennials trying to buy a home, and I think you guys have that campaign, like Keep the Dream Alive, or I may not be getting the words exactly right. What's the state of home ownership in Ontario right now, and kind of what's broken with it, and where do we go?
A big topic, so we want to break that down. Yeah. But you did nail it, Warren. I'm impressed. KeepTheDreamAlive.ca. That is our campaign website. The goal is to make sure that the great Canadian dream of home ownership does not slip away from the next generation. And the problem is that's exactly what's happening in Ontario today. One of the great stories about Canada has been that since Confederation, through the Depression, through both world wars, that the percentage of people in Canada who owned a home always increased. So each generation had a better shot at owning a home than the parents or grandparents. That helped to build our middle class, made us a strong, stable country. It's a great hallmark of Canada. Until now, in the last 3 years, the rate of homeownership is actually slipping. And what's particularly surprising about this is we've had a sustained period of low mortgage rates. The economy has done much better than average. But despite all that, the percentage of homeowners is going down, largely in the backs of millennials and new Canadians.
So where do we go from here? Like, as you see people, and there are, individuals in the media or in the art community who have been part of that vibrant Toronto culture. Not to make this just a Toronto story, but those people are getting pushed out to like the Hamiltons and the Ancasters now because that's the only place they can afford to live. There's a whole bunch of different issues going on here, but like, how do we fix it other than having 5 millennials get together to leverage themselves to buy a house?
It really gets back to housing supply and affordability. So let me explain that. The basic problem we have right now in Ontario is we have more and more people who are chasing fewer and fewer houses. So
supply and demand from economics 101.
You got it.
Right.
It is. Picture a cruel version of musical chairs. Instead of a chair, it's a house you're chasing.
Can be pretty badass itself.
Yeah, there you go. So you have more and more people wandering around in circles, looking for the houses, and the government's been plucking out those chairs so there's fewer homes available. That drives up prices. It means more people stay in apartments longer, and that has a cascading impact. So people who want to move to apartments stay with mom and dad, or they stay in social housing. And who pays the price is our most vulnerable in society who can't get shelter at all. So we've got to fix this game. Why do we have more demand? Well, we have more millennials now who are getting promoted. They're starting to form families. That's a good thing.
Right.
And this is the biggest generation we've had as a result of immigration. We have new Canadians who are moving to the Greater Toronto Hamilton area in large numbers. We've got relatively low mortgage rates still, and we've a lot of immigration from within Canada, right, coming to Ontario, if that's the proper term. Those are all problems that are good problems to have. You'd rather have more people that want to live here than the opposite. The problem is supply. And for far too long, we have not been building enough houses, not enough condos, not enough spaces for people to live.
And one of the issues, I'm not an expert on this, but I've been reading a little bit about one of the issues is the delay in getting approvals to build new neighborhoods and new homes. And is that a government issue? Like, whose fault is this?
Government, 100%. So, all of us have that story of the millennial. She's done everything right. She got her degree at, U of T. She got a good job and still stuck at home with mom and dad, or crammed into an apartment with buddies from university, and it's just time to move on. So how do we fix that? It starts with speeding up the approvals process. By way of example, in some communities in Ontario, it takes up to 10 years or more to get a new subdivision planned. Every month, every year of delay limits supply and pushes prices farther out of reach.
How can it be like a decade? That sounds
crazy. No, it is. So many levels of government involved with so many approvals. It's like a very slow-moving game of dominoes. So to get that first piece moving, right, to get the form signed by, say, the local conservation authority, and they say, well, you got to go to the Ministry of Environment, and then fill out a form there and go back to the conservation authority. The municipal council looks at it, and you've got provincial approvals. At the end of the day, it's really ground housing to a halt. In 2016, we actually built 1/2 the homes that we did in 2006. So again, all those people coming into the game to buy a house, half the homes going onto the market. No wonder it's a mess.
Jeez, and the population's growing at the same time. Jeez.
Exactly. And again, that's a good problem to have, right? The people want to live here, especially the Greater Toronto Hamilton area. Southwestern Ontario is doing well. I'm a Niagara boy. You know, the great places to live compared to other places in North America or the world. But government, I think with good intentions, has put so many rules in the way, so many regulations, so many costs. And we're not building the infrastructure to hook up land that's ready for development, because you can't sell a house and turn the tap on and the water comes out.
Right.
Or you can't park in the driveway. Yeah. So the solutions are out there, Warren. We just need some courage and some focus to get the job done.
You deal with obviously a lot of real estate agents on a daily basis. I'm sure there's some of them in this building getting training right now. Why do you think it is, again, in 2018, I look at my blue box, why is it that the number one mode of marketing for real estate agents today, and again, this is coming from a guy who's a Twitter guy and a Facebook guy, is direct mail? Like, is this the Flintstones, or does this still work, or am I missing something?
So I really have not seen a more hyper competitive industry than real estate. And I've had the honor of working in all kinds of different industries in my old job in politics, right? We have right now almost 77,000 realtors in Ontario, and they will adopt all kinds of different models. Will they specialize in areas like condos or agriculture or cottages, right? Or will they have a particular neighborhood? They become the go-to expert. That's a typical model. So I really do trust that realtors, because of the competitiveness of the business, figure out the best way to call people's attention. So direct mail, the drops in the post office, that's part of it. The online side has grown substantially. The good realtors usually keep a pretty solid data bank of their contacts, and they get a lot of business through referrals from those contacts. Yeah, the bottom line is you got to work your tail off to be successful as a realtor. You got to be a people person, a consummate networker. I mean, holidays, weekends off, sick days. I mean, come on, you toss those aside, and you become an expert in your area, neighborhood, or type of real estate to be successful. So I just believe that they will tend to pick the best tools to serve their customers, because if they don't, there's like
someone else trying to eat their lunch.
5,000 in that area that'll take it.
But isn't there a little bit of just it's always been done that way, so I'm going to do it that way too? Like, I've seen even personally some characters across Canada who have sort of popped on Instagram, and it has changed their careers. They've gone from struggling agents to almost celebrity agents. You know what I mean?
A lot of personality, right? People want to know you, trust you, believe that you will understand what they're looking at a neighborhood. You know, is the school going to be good? What development's happening in the backyard? Is there a biker gang down the street? You know, what's the walkability of the neighborhood, and is it a good place in 5 years when my kids are growing up to ride their bike around, right? So they'll become experts in that area. Now, you are certainly seeing a lot more realtors shifting into social media. Instagram is a preferred method for some in the market because it's just such a visual method, right? You got to fall in love with the place before you go and look at it. But I'll go back to basics here. Unlike a lot of other sectors, say, you know, transportation, where market entry is very difficult and there are rules that stop people from getting into it, real estate is really competitive. There's no barriers to say you have to do advertising this way or that way. And I'm somebody who believes the cream rises to the top, that they'll pick the channels for their market. And if they specialize in retirees, they may have a different approach than they would for
are not on Instagram
millennials.
At this point.
I just think the market adapts in the communication, but you will see realtors active in all channels.
Okay. We've mentioned kids a couple times in various formats. I want to talk about you as a child. A couple of the words that keep coming up about you, one of them was workhorse, and the other one was focused, hyper-focused. And someone, I forget who it might have been, a colleague or a teacher or someone said that Tim, as a youngster, could have been walking through the school. It could have been like crumbling down around him, and he wouldn't have even gotten dust on his clothes. That's not your typical kind of 10 or 12-year-old. Do you recall being that focused kid, and what do you think it was like that made you like that?
Boy, you know, I've just turned 51 a month ago. It's so long ago.
November 1st, right?
Yeah. I was just a couple hours after midnight on Halloween, which my mom likes to remind me of all the time. Yeah. Thanks on that, too. So was I that kid? No, I was pretty typical. I The dust in the hallway, it's a weird one. I don't remember anybody saying that. I was pretty active in school. I played a lot of sports. I know you're looking at me. You probably thought I was a college athlete. That's
there you go.
Nice
Obviously.
to say. But I was high school good. Nothing beyond that. But I played a lot of sports. I wasn't involved in school politics or party politics until after I graduated. I guess outgoing, a degree of confidence, but if I went back again, I think I'd be a lot more successful with more confidence knowing what I know.
Wouldn't we all,
today. I think so. I try not to dwell on it.
I think we actually went to Western at the same time, too.
You look younger than me.
We're same age.
All right, 86 to 90.
I was like 87, 90.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right, there you go. It's in Saugeen. Yeah, like was
you
I
in Saugeen as well?
I was.
I was there, too.
Huh.
Yeah.
It was good. I enjoyed that.
It was fun.
I don't think I could have made it through 2 years, however.
I was there 3 years.
God bless you. God bless you. Yeah, like was I super focused? Look, it's nice of you to say. I think in my career I've been hardworking. Was that always the case for me? I did well academically in school, so I didn't have to try too hard. I think where the hardworking part comes from. My dad is like that. He came from a pretty a low-income immigrant family from what was then Czechoslovakia. Pretty poor, so he always had a very strong work ethic and drive, no doubt. But I remember pretty vividly one of my early jobs in university was working at a paint factory. And it was an old paint factory. The elevator, you seriously had to use your hands on the pulleys to move up and down. It was a victim of free trade, no surprise. It ended up closing in Fort Erie. My job was to sit on the line and put the handles on the paint cans. Paint can comes, left side, flip the handle over, right side, click, push it down. It was mind-numbing labor. I remember the union steward coming over to me and saying, "Tim, you got to slow down.
You're making us look bad here.
Just take it easy. Fewer paint cans going through."
The guys at the other end of the line are complaining.
Yeah, and I just remember at that point in time thinking, you know what, I didn't want to end up the guy doing the paint cans and the handle.
It's a good motivator.
It sparked in me a motivator to
keep going,
aspire to something different than that.
I had a similar experience in a lumber mill. And what they would do is the older guys, they called it the boardway. All these finished pieces of lumber would come off, and they were all different sizes. And then it was your job to stack them up. And so they would take the old sort of grizzled grandpa guys who'd been there for 50 years, and they would get like basically popsicle sticks and, the election sign sticks. And I was down at the end doing like railway ties. And even then, like they would kind of like crank up the line just to see what they could get you to do. And I had the same thing a couple times. They said, "You got to slow down. You're making us look bad."
There you go. Worked out well for you too.
Want to touch on we've talked about media, politics, south of the border. Donald Trump has made a lot of comments about the media being the enemy of the state recently. And obviously he's in some hot water in a bunch of different fronts. But the thing with the media, and I've got a sister who's a reporter at the Globe and Mail, and I've worked as a journalist. What do you think of comments like this when you have politicians almost inciting violence against the media?
And that's a unique case, right? Like maybe there are in Europe or other areas. Trump is Trump. I do think, though, that we have seen a recently growing phenomenon of media as entertainment and media picking sides in battle. Like, honest to God, I don't watch CNN anymore because it's sort of the anti-Trump propaganda station. They talk about nothing else, and I don't find them credible. I typically, if I'm trying to consume media on a story that have no expertise, I'll look at multiple sources and try to figure out
somewhere in the middle. You can connect the dots
in the middle.
Yeah.
So I will always be a political hobbyist. So one of my favorites is Real Clear Politics. It's an aggregator of news stories.
Okay.
So if any issue develops, they've got like 20 stories from various sources, and the headlines will be polar opposites and some in the middle. That's the best way of figuring this out. So Trump's over the top, no doubt about it. But I do think that there is something that has developed in our media where they're increasingly biased and playing to a particular audience, and we're picking our channels.
Almost like clickbait. And because the media is being disrupted at the same time, and they're trying to get attention. And so we've just seen, like, my thesis in journalism school was the tabloidization of news. And this is like in 1993. And it's not even touching what we have today. It's like just ridiculous. And the concentration of ownership, like the media is just a mess. And
I got to say, at the end of the day, though, I think this is, I'll switch back to my inherent optimism. I think it's actually healthy. I think that there is a growing skepticism among the general public of authority figures, whether it's people like, me as CEO, my old job as politician for sure, of the media. not-for-profits. I think that that calls for greater accountability, a greater transparency. You as a whole person, we're more likely to believe our friends or people who do the frontline work than those at the top. We can get information from elsewhere than the so-called experts. We're in a bit of an edge right now, but I think the ultimate direction will be fundamentally healthy. So I think people are naturally more informed, they're more confident, and they're more willing to question authority.
So you think this is like a purging process and something better will come out the other side?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a bit strong, but I think it is a shift. And I do believe in the evolution of human nature. If we are free to make our own choices, we have free markets that give us products and services we desire, we'll always be improving.
Right. You're obviously very busy. You wear a couple different hats. You've always had a lot on your plate in terms of your professional career. Leading an association like this is obviously a very taxing job, and then you've got the radio show and other things that you're working on. Do you have any downtime, and like, what do you do? Do you have any hobbies? Like, how do you sort of unwind or kind of just chill out sometimes?
Pro wrestling. That's my stress relief. Yeah, I'll PVR all the WWE
so watching
shows
it, not actually participating in it.
I do put on a mask. I'm a luchador in my spare time. I got a 50-50 record. I get a bit old and slow,
right?
But I fight dirty now. Look, I've got two lovely daughters, Miller and Maitland, so if I get some spare time, it's with them. I'm really looking forward to Christmas when their school ends. They're a blast. They're, as girls have an innate ability to wrap dad around their fingers.
I've got two daughters.
There
as well,
you go. So same thing, right? Deb will discipline. They'll do something wrong. They'll look like they're in the penalty box.
They come over to you.
Yeah, they give you that cute little innocent smile, and you start laughing. And Deb just blew the whole thing. Now they don't take it seriously. So spending time with my girls, my wife Deb, and if I have some spare time other than that, I like to just get out. I enjoy mountain biking with nobody around me. Often doing that or going for a hike was a way I made big decisions, just to be isolated with myself, enjoy outdoors. Kayaking in the Welland River where my house is in the peninsula. And then if I get a chance, a little bit of outdoor barbecue with the craft brew is sort of, my favorite spot to be otherwise.
Are you one of those like Fitbit guys, or do you kind of track your steps, or you just kind of go out there and just do it?
I don't. My daughter Miller has the Fitbit and Deb does. I've not been Fitbit yet.
I recommend it.
Yeah?
Kind of gamifies your walking game.
Yeah, maybe so.
And then
maybe
you get
I
into
will.
little groups with your friends, and you have like little weekly competitions.
That seems weird to me.
Like which part of it?
You compete in how many steps you each take?
Yeah. And it makes you, depending how competitive, you strike me as probably a competitive guy.
Yeah, you made me think about what I was like in high school to now. I think there are two things. I mean, the focus is fine. I think it developed later on. I've always been competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So imagine you're sitting there, watching House of Cards or whatever. It's probably a bad reference these days, but some other non-Me Too show, and you get a notice on your phone saying that so-and-so just jumped over you by 2,000 steps. And it's a good motivator to get your ass.
Yeah, but I'm up to date on what's happening in Game of Thrones or Walking Dead. Like I'd kill him in trivia, isn't that or something?
What shows are you into these days?
Those guys. So I'm at a Walking Dead recess. I think they've picked their game back up.
Yeah.
I like anything zombies. I could watch friggin' zombies playing checkers, and I would watch that for hours on end. Right. I've liked the zombies since the Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead shows in the early 1980s. Game of Thrones, looking forward to that coming back on. I'm a Trekkie as well, so Discovery here, right? Filmed largely in Toronto. I'd say those are sort of my top three.
Game of Thrones, the delay, though, is just so long. You almost have to watch the whole last season again just to remember what's going on.
And so many characters with weird names, too.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but they keep doing it, right? Like it is worth the wait.
But you almost have to watch the last season again just to kind of refresh your memory.
True.
Or maybe it's just my age.
No, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of characters, a lot of odd names, and last season was kind of weird too because they fast forwarded, right? They can suddenly get around everywhere really fast. But I wasn't big on the dragons and the magic stuff. I like the sort of the intrigue better, but it is a fabulous show, and it's going to end soon, isn't it?
It is. This is the last one.
That's
why they fast forwarded everything. They knew they had a hard stop, and they had to wind up all these plot lines.
Okay, I'm sticking around for it.
And I think they're ahead of the guy who's writing the books now at this point.
Which is really funny.
They're just making up their own stuff at this point. How about books? Do you read at all? What have you read recently? Do you have anything you'd recommend? I
used to read all the time books. And that has slipped. I think maybe because I've become a bit of the hat's on, right? So I'm a bit of a generalist to be entertaining on the radio show. I still love politics. And then my day job around real estate every day is learning experience. I didn't work in the industry before. I worked in the politics side of it. So I do read every night before I go to sleep. And my consumption is usually a series of of articles and media as opposed to a book. I've got like 4 or 5 books going, and it's rare I get back to them. But I'm reading about Andrew Jackson. I'll tell you that. That's my current book that sometimes I read. So, I mean, this is the president who is probably most like
Is
Trump.
it like a biography or something of his?
Yeah, I think it won a Pulitzer. It's just about sort of what this guy was like. He was a consummate outsider. He was disliked by the establishment in Washington, D.C. So I thought the parallel was quite interesting.
So you mentioned making big decisions when you'll go for a hike or a walk or like a mountain bike. That's not uncommon. You see a lot of historical figures, and especially politicians who were famous for their long walks. Like Pierre Trudeau used to go for these long walks, and they said that Charles Dickens would walk like 30 miles a day sometimes, which seems like super insane. Is that something you've always done? Like the walking, the hiking?
So, yeah, maybe not for decisions, but just had a really nice childhood. I grew up in a pretty typical middle-class neighborhood in Fort Erie, and we're the last street of development. So we had this, what seemed at the time, right? Sort of like the Christopher Robin massive forest in behind. My buddies and I would pack our lunches, go for hikes, disappear for most of the day, and then wander out of the woods somewhere else and try to figure out our way home. And my folks, particularly my dad, would take me hiking quite a bit when we lived out in British Columbia when I was a kid. So the outdoor side, always appealed. So more for recreation, then developed to something when I was making a big call.
It's a good way to clear the mind, I find.
Nothing quite like it. Absolutely. Short Hills Park in Niagara, one of my favorite places to go. I don't do it as much as I should, or I'd like to. But I just have such fun memories of sort of pumping the bike, getting up a hill, getting into a clearing, and there's like a bunch of deer hanging around, right? And then you shoot them. No, I didn't really do that.
Bow hunting.
Yeah, exactly. I just chase them.
So if your wife Deb is listening, you want a Fitbit for Christmas now, or no?
No, I don't. You don't want
to be into that ecosystem?
No, it just seems weird to me.
What's the weird? Twitter, Facebook, you're basically a half cyborg at this point, and you don't want to track that. I just don't give a shit how many feet my friends have walked. That's valid. Yeah, it doesn't confront me. They had a good beer I want to try, nice restaurant, maybe, but I'll ask. Nope. I've gone full circle. When I was a kid, I hated when I got clothes. My big wish list is I want some new clothes. Well, it's because someone else was picking out your clothes for you. That's why.
Okay.
When we were kids.
Yeah.
Like I go out with my kids now, they pick out their clothes. Okay. When I was a kid, you just come home and there's clothes on the bed.
Yeah, fair enough.
Those are your clothes, and they
Did you get hand-me-downs?
No, I was the first. I was the oldest. Okay. But you'd get like whatever Wolco, those giant collars, and like it was the 70s.
The velour. How many velour sweaters did you have?
Too many. I had like a burgundy velour sweater. Well, corduroy pants. Like it was a nightmare.
Yeah. So Deb, Deb's the organizer. She does like 95% of the shopping in our family. I basically buy for her and a gift each for the kids. She does all the rest. And so she asked me what I wanted for Christmas this year, and I've turned into I want clothes.
Oh, you do?
I'm so exciting. I want 2 new suits for 2019.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
and so that's your wish list.
It's what an exciting life I lead.
One of the topics you were chatting about with someone recently was the Stats Canada and sort of delving into personal information.
Yeah.
Where do you fall on that? What's
against?
You're against, and do you think they, I made a tweet because at the same time I had some woman like just relentlessly knocking on my door for one of these labor force surveys or something like that. And to me, the first thing I'm thinking is this is some information pirate trying to steal all my information, right? So I really gave her a difficult time for a couple of weeks, and I called her office and I found her badge number just to make sure this is actually who it is. Because if you want to steal somebody's personal information, that's a pretty good way to do it. Say, you have to give me this information or you go to jail or we fine you or whatever. And so I started making some tweets about that. And I couldn't believe people just jumping on me about this is good for society and this is how we make decisions. A lot of them from the academic world. And I find myself just kind of like bristling against that. And then I started looking up how many privacy breaches that they've had. And they had that one dude who had like 600 surveys in his trunk and his car got stolen. I'd like to hear your thoughts, though, about why you think this is not ideal.
Yeah, so just to take it back to how you listen to a segment of a radio show. So Stephen Crawford, MPP for Oakville, has a private member's bill in the legislature to protect personal financial information. You mentioned some of the breaches that we have, Equifax, Facebook. There's some major ones that have happened. I believe in opt-in. So when I heard that Statistics Canada is going to force the banks to turn over the financial records of 500,000 Canadians And it wasn't simply your banking information, it was your credit rating, it was right across credit cards, right across the board. I found that objectionable. So a game I play, Warren, is guess if you had a survey like through the Star or the Sun, the percentage of people who would object to that. And that one hit me as like an 80 to 85%.
I think it'd be pretty high.
Yeah. So you and I are on the same page, and we're right. And that's where the general public is compared to some academics. And I get it. They want to do it for research. I'm sure they were well-intentioned and good purposes. But back off. Ask me. If I want to volunteer for your survey because I think it'll help me or the country, then let me volunteer my information. I really believe that we should have strong suspicion about the ability of government to gather information and then not use it for a purpose that we're okay with.
And you have no idea what they're cross-referencing or the CRA or anything along those lines.
I actually do think it's about collecting taxes.
It's a conspiracy theory. Ultimately, right? Yeah. Follow the money, right?
Yeah. I think that they want to squeeze more money. They think there are tax cheats out there, and this will help them either track down the individuals or look for patterns.
Right. The artificial intelligence and smart data and that kind of thing.
For sure.
Yeah.
By all means. But let me consent. Let me say that is
for sure.
Okay.
Opt in. Yeah.
You got it.
So what's up for 2019 for you? What's on your sort of personal bucket list? What's happening sort of personal-wise, professional-wise? This is the time of year where we all reflect. So what's on the agenda for you for the next year?
Yeah, I know my staff hates it, right? So we just got through our board meetings. They went really well. I had my performance review from our star chamber, right, of the leadership. And they've given me another year. So I'm still hanging around for at least another one. Thank you. It actually went really well. I was really happy. I was given some pretty clear marching orders when I came on board 2 years ago, one of which was to raise the profile of the association. You and I talked about that earlier in the podcast. Feel mission accomplished.
It's a slam dunk on that, I would say.
Yeah, and number two, as a new CEO coming in, was we've been doing the same thing for a decade and a half. Figure out what we should blow up, what we should rejuvenate or add on. So in many ways, now we're in the execution part of that phase. We've been creative. We've changed. We've blown a few things up. We've made some new toys. And 2019 will continue that pattern. So I'm excited. The reason my staff are going crazy, my work is done now for 2018.
No, their work
I got my review.
Yeah.
They're implementing. So I'm sitting around thinking of new ideas. It's a blast. Not so great for them.
Right. Tim Hudak, thank you very much for your time. I know you've got more important things to do. Best of the holidays to you and your family, and hopefully we get to do this again.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you back and your listeners, and thank you so much for coming into Arena. We'll visit your arena next time around.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this chat with Tim Hudak. Please take a few seconds to subscribe or to rate the show on Apple Podcasts. Or if you have a comment or if there's someone you'd like to hear interviewed on the show, please send me a note on Twitter. My handle is @Warren_Weeks. Once again, thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.